Recording. All right, so we are recording. Is everybody good? And
we're good.
Let's do it.
And there are some participants on, right, who could probably say hi in the chat too, just to say hello.
And everyone hear us. Just want to make sure everybody is here. Awesome. Great. Thanks, Erica.
Thank you, Erica.
All right, so let's get started. Busy people, and excited to have this conversation today. So I guess we'll kick it off. So Miriam, I'm Tara Henning from Superkin, and that's Miriam. She's next to me on the top panel. I'm not sure what your Brady Bunch grid looks like, but yeah, so we're so excited to have everybody. We're the co-founders of Superkin, and thrilled to have such an amazing lineup of panelists to join us today. And just kind of wanted to give you a quick rundown on who we are. Superkin is not a maternity brand. We are creating high-tech, low-maintenance clothing for exceptional and expecting women. Miriam and I are long-term friends, come from the retail industry, and are moms to 3 kids between us. And this panel is really lined up in conjunction with our campaign that we recently launched called Add to Resume, Grew a Human. And it's really this time that we, especially in 2020, celebrate our superpowers as moms. And we are raising $10,000 for Black Mamas Matter Alliance to help, the conversation and education to discuss, the issues and biases that happen to drive, the health inequality in the US. And so we hope that you have had a chance to purchase your shirt. You'll see all of the panelists are rocking theirs today. We're so excited and really honored to have this incredible lineup of women joining us. And so with that being said, we'd love to pass it off to Jessica Naziri, who is the moderator for today, and I'll let her introduce herself and the amazing panelists. So take it away.
Hi, yes, thank you so much, Tara and Miriam. This is very exciting to be on a panel with badass moms in industry. I think there's this unspoken word for other moms who are going through this. We kind of look at each other and we get one another, and then add in everything that doesn't work out, like starting off our webinar with terrible workings of technology. It's 2020, so expect the worst and the best will happen. But again, I'm very excited. This is going to be a very great panel. The coronavirus, it exposed so many cracks in our system, and today we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about how mothers, we're a community of women who always are there going through the same thing in different ways. And we'll talk about how we can fight this how we can be anti-racist, how we're going to raise the next generation of leaders. But first, I do want to introduce the panelists, and I would love for you guys to introduce yourselves. So first, we'll go with Temi. She's the founder of Pembroke PR. Tell us 2 sentences about yourself and how many kids do you have?
I've got a 7-year-old son. I live in San Francisco, and I'm delighted to be here and just share our collective experience, because I think everyone can safely say it's been quite the wild ride. I think in the context of San Francisco, we lost the whole entire sun for a day on Wednesday. And so for me, after that, and then we had a power cut on Sunday. So I'm like, anything can happen.
Yes, okay. And then now we'll go to Joy Burkhard. She's the founder of 2020 Mom and Mom Congress.
Yes, hi everyone. It's good to be here, and what a great accent that was, Temi. Thank you for speaking. I could listen to you often. And just briefly about me, as was mentioned, the founder of 2020 Mom and Mom Congress. 2020 Mom is a nonprofit that's closing gaps in maternal mental health care, so addressing depression, anxiety around pregnancy and the postpartum period. And Mom Congress is this great community of badass mothers that are looking to change the world to support pregnancy and early parenting. So we invite everyone to join us in that community if you want to make a difference in this world, and it's a great pleasure to be here.
Great, thank you. And Hitha Palepu, she's an author, she's a CEO, an investor. We can keep going. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Thanks, Jessica. I'm Hitha. I call myself a multi-hyphenate because I don't know how to accurately describe all the things I do. By day, I run a pharmaceutical company with my father, and the rest of the time I'm juggling my 2 little boys, Ro, who's 5, and Rocky, who's 1, who thinks he's 5, and that is its own challenge. I'm the creator of Five Smart Reads, which is a daily newsletter and social share to share the news that you need to know without destroying your happiness or will to live. And I wrote the book How to Pack, Travel Smart for Any Trip, which unfortunately is not super useful this year, but hopefully one day.
I mean, we're packing even if we're going to the park or a restaurant, especially when we have younger kids. In between us, we have kids aging from 16 months to 12 years old. So I myself, I have a 16-month-old. I'm a first-time mom. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm also the founder of Techsesh, and my mission is to empower more women to get into technology. So let's go straight into it. I had like a meltdown yesterday, I want to say. I don't know if it's because my husband's not a planner and I've just become one, but even when it comes to planning here in 2020, nothing goes accordingly. So I want to know, just right off the bat, how are you guys dealing with everything that's going on right now? And we'll start with you, Joy, because you're shaking your head. I'm like, yeah, I want to hear from you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a great question. And, you know, we're grappling with 2020 and our name is 2020 Mom. Let's just start there. And people are like, whoa, what does that all mean? And we're going to change our name, by the way, that's 2020 Mom, the organization, to 2020 with a backslash or forward slash.
See, we heard it here
Vision
first.
from others. Vision from others. We're ready to move on from this year and this name. But you know, certainly juggling a lot as a mother, but also I think in our organizations, we're grappling with change in our organizations and what does this mean? How do we pivot? And those are the things that are weighing on me heavily right now. I also failed to mention mom brain, right? That I have an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old, and one's doing pretty well at school and one's like struggling. You know, these are the daily struggles. I'm sitting in one of their bedrooms right now because I didn't have a place to go for this webinar. So it really is, you know, I think it's hitting all of us in such a heavy way, but I'm happy to process more with folks offline about organizations and how you're grappling with change, because it really does seem like a reset for the world, right? For all of us personally as parents, but also for the world and our organizations as well.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go with you, Temi. I want to know, so far, takeaways of 2020. How has your life changed? What do you miss? What's keeping you up at night? I know that you really have so much going on right now. I feel like things are getting a little bit into like a groove, and you own a PR company. So how are you running your business and kind of going through the motions of this new life?
It's a lot. And I think that's how I kind of start every answer. I just say it's a lot. It's a whole lot. There is so much going on right now. And I think just focusing on the tiny wins, whatever form they come in. You finished your breakfast. Yay!
Is that what happens in your household? There's a yay after a Cheerios eaten. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just so much. You know, it was my son's birthday a couple of weeks ago. We had to change, and we planned like a really small gathering, like 3 of his best friends. We were going to go on a bike ride. He was super excited about it. We woke up that morning, smoke everywhere. We couldn't go to where we were going to go. We were scrambling to find a different location. I felt terrible because it was such a small gathering. And then we found a different location that worked well enough. We go. I planned this amazing picnic. I forgot the ingredients for the sandwiches. So we had all this amazing bread. So we had bread sandwiches and cake. So I just feel celebrating the tiny wins in whatever form they come in. You know, the kids loved it. For them, it was like the carb fest they've all been dreaming of, bread sandwiches and cake for the win. So I was like, okay, they're happy. Great, take it. There is a lot going on, and it's hard to keep things in perspective, but I do feel really strongly that celebrating the tiny wins, whatever form that comes in. I love reading. I love working out in the morning, having consistency. One of the things that's been really helpful for me, it's different for everyone. I don't drink during the week. I drink at the weekend because it makes it feel like more of a weekend, because otherwise every day feels like a Wednesday.
I mean, why not? Yeah. There are no more rules.
There are no more rules, so whatever works for you, but that's definitely something that works really well for me. And work has been really busy. This has probably been our busiest year yet with work, just in terms of growth. I've been running my PR agency for 6 years, so it's been a natural progression to get to this point. I just took on a new employee. We've taken on a couple of great new clients over the past couple of months. It's a really busy time, really knuckling down. I am by nature a really organized person, but I found with so much going on, with so much in flux and so much changing all the time, I'm relying so much more on like the really strong systems I have in place. So I'm totally that mom. Like I have a, huge calendar on the wall in the kitchen. Everybody knows what we're doing. I have a Google calendar. I have a written calendar, a little notebook here next to me.
Wow.
Down somewhere.
Okay, Temi, I'm gonna interrupt you for a second. What kind of PR for people who want to know? Maybe you can help them. Maybe you can join forces with someone. And then my other question is, I know that you're very organized, but your partner, is he or she involved in that as well? Or is it just like, okay, this is what's happening in the morning, or do you talk about it at night? We want to know so we can get actionable advice for us unorganized folks like myself.
Sure. So the quick and easy question, what do I do for PR? We run a luxury lifestyle PR agency. So we do a lot of work with design, and we've started doing some work with tech companies, but we do consumer lifestyle products. So it's people looking to reach a broader consumer audience. And then in terms of organization, I'm definitely the planner. I'm definitely the organized one. I remember when we got married, my husband said to one of his friends, one of the things I love so much about her, she's so organized. You just get swept up in organization if you just walk along. So I definitely do all the planning. I find it's easier with planning if one person in general takes the lead, maybe in different areas. And we do sit down. Hitha, I think you've spoken about this on your newsletter. We do sit down every Sunday and do an overview of the week. My husband's an architect, so he has to go out on site visits. So I'm like, okay, what days are you gone? Are you going to be back in time for dinner those days? And just to have an idea of what's happening in the week, because so much is changing all the time that I've actually found I just need so much more structure within the things that I can control, which for most of us is whatever's going on within your household. So that's what I do. I meal plan. Again, it makes it easier. There's less waste. We know what's going on when. We know which days are going to be the slam dunk for the kid. We know which days we need to brace ourselves because he's not going to want to eat. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about that newsletter. Give us a little bit of the nuggets. And how are you dealing with everything? You're the multi-hyphenate. You're the one that also has so many things going on a day-to-day. I'm sure no 2 days are the same. How are you coping with it all? And give us your tips.
Thank you for reading my newsletter, Temi. Yeah, so we have a marriage check-in that my husband and I do once a week, and it's a mix of admin, so schedules, budget, all that really unsexy, icky stuff. And then like in a more emotional check-in, because we need to make sure that we are on the same page. And then this way, it's like our time of the week where we kind of address all the stuff that might have been bugging us, annoying us, or things we want to like share and be grateful for each other with. So that way little tips don't become big fights.
If you're a note taker like me, I mean, wow. Okay. Cause I'm even navigating marriage too. Everything is a blur. So how do people sign up for this newsletter?
If you go to 5smartreads.com, it's there. All of the archives are there, and I'm sure you could search and find it. And this whole like ritual, as well as like the fact that the book Fair Play changed our life. I have a podcast episode about it. If you go to onesmartpod.com, the number one, you could listen to that episode too. It's about 10 minutes. It'll save you some time. And I'll put the site in the chat in just a little bit. I have good days and I have not good days. So right now my little wins are that Ro is doing shockingly okay at Zoom school, and I'm incredibly grateful for his wonderful teachers for making the most of Zoom school and getting the kids engaged and participating, because it's hard to be in front of a computer for 6 hours as an adult. As a 5-year-old, like I can't even. work is work. I mean, frankly, this has been my hardest year, and I feel like I've said that every year I've ever had a business. But the pandemic definitely threw a wrench in fundraising. I haven't paid myself a salary since February, and so I've had to take on more sponsored projects to financially contribute to our family, which has been, it's great that that's gone so well, but it's also been a juggle and fitting everything in the day. To echo some of Temi's tips, like working out is a game changer for me and it has to happen in the morning. Meditation is really important. Meal prep is great, and kind of Ro has been helping me now with that. Like I can give him like a kitty knife and let him whack out like some carrots, and like they turn out disastrous, it's okay because it's just one thing. And my husband will take Rocky, or I'll try to do it during nap time on a Sunday. I basically make variations of the same like 5 to 7 dishes. So like I am not baking bread. I have no sourdough starter. I am sticking with like the really simple, easy things that I can throw together in like 10 minutes. And the Instant Pot is like also my lifesaver because it's throw and go. And then, one thing that's like I kind of always knew, but is really crystallized to me, and that I would like to, when we're on the other side of this pandemic and rebuilding the world into a better, more equitable world, I don't want to go back to normal, is really how do we redefine capitalism? Because it is abundantly clear that it is sexist and racist as hell, that it was built to promote and benefit cis, straight, white men who are to previously been single, sole income owners. And I no longer subscribe to that narrative, and I want to change. I just don't know how yet.
Which brings me to my next point. And Joy, you can chime in, or whoever wants to, but what is happening right now, what women in America are living in right now, is a consequence of occupational segregation. We've been kept out of managerial positions, stuck in low-paying jobs, very to little sick paid leave. I can go on and on and on, like the C-suite level. Do you all think that this has taken us 1,000 steps back, or is it sort of now showing men that like, look at how many more jobs we have, look at how many more things we have, this is the new normal, now I can also be home, work, and then go into that high paying job, into that high level job? I'm just like, there's so much confusion, and some people are saying, well, we're getting a little bit closer to where we need to be, and others are saying, no, we've just taken so many steps backwards. So I'm curious to know what you guys think about everything that's going on right now. I finally got my husband to understand what I do from being home, and he's not even home, but like, this has been an eye-opener for me on so many levels. Just both of your nuggets about marriage check-ins and emotional check-ins, work check-ins, so many things that we have to discuss. But are we going forward? Are we going backwards? What do you all think?
I feel it's a bit of both, because I feel in certain respects there's progression happening because there's so much more visibility to the inequity. And I think you can only move forward from a certain position if you know what your start position is. And I think this has really shown us we're not quite as far ahead as we thought we were. So it's made it easier for a lot of us to see how much more work we need to do. It's made it easier to have those conversations with our partners, with our husbands, about all the stuff that we do that they never saw, that they didn't think happened, but somehow mysteriously always happens. So I think, best case scenario, husbands are getting more involved at home. Or at least, people are definitely having more conversations with their partners about getting them more involved in home, which I don't think would have happened otherwise. Because I think also there was so much capacity to outsource that's gone away for so many people that you can't outsource. And now it's just very much like the two of you doing everything. And so there just has to be division of labor. No one person can do everything. So I think it's definitely created that. But then it has definitely taken us all backwards, because as women, I feel majority of families, their homeschool section of life is being navigated by the moms. And as we can all attest, man, I've got one child and he's great with school. He's really engaged. So I literally have best case scenario. I run my own company, so I have maximum flexibility with my schedule. It is so hard to do both. It is impossible. I'm not a teacher. I don't have those skills. And we've all had to acquire this entirely new set of skills that we didn't want necessarily or have much interest in, but you have to do it for the benefit of your kid. And I think what's happened for a lot of people, a lot of mums in particular, is we fell into that role because it was an emergency situation, and in an emergency the mums catch the kids, but we're still here holding the kid, doing the job.
Interesting. Hitha, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, echoing what Temi said, I think at a micro level, this has probably done wonders at hopefully leveling the playing field at home and getting partners to start stepping up and equally dividing or fairly dividing the home. On a macro level, no, I think women are like, we have set women back, like the past 25 years of gains have like basically been erased in 6 months. And it is heartbreaking. It is terrifying. And it goes to show, and like, by the way, there is a significant part of this country, a lot of the people who are in charge don't want to not be in charge anymore. There is no buy-in. And so I really I get really depressed when I think about this. And then it just kind of, I have to let myself be sad and like acknowledge that this is a fair feeling, and then focus on, okay, so what can I do about it? And I think picking an issue or a topic to kind of focus in on and say, can I do something in service of this almost every single day does help. So for me, it's okay, how can I help other women founders and entrepreneurs, like help them with their business? So whether it's taking on more, just advising people casually and being able to say, especially Black and women of color founders who have it even worse compared to all women, which is pretty bad, advising, investing in more companies, which thankfully we have the ability to do so, and to get out that vote, because this is the most consequential election of our lifetime. And if we don't have leadership at the top that is in service of building a fair and equitable world, like, we're just going to keep pushing this boulder up a hill with no break at all. So yeah.
Joy, did you want to add anything to this?
Yeah,
you're front and center with Mom Congress. We definitely, we know you have a lot to add.
Yeah, I would just add that there's, I think, some inequity around, and Hitha, I think this is what you're saying, is that for women who are professional, like all of us, right, who we get to design our career, we're in a very lucky or privileged place, right? And for us, the struggle has been, we get to maintain our jobs and juggle some parenting, differences at home and work through equity at home. But for those women who are showing up for a paycheck, right, who didn't get to design their jobs, there's some real inequities, as we all are following in the news. One of the things that we wanted to cover today, too, is the policy around childcare, and what does that mean? So 250,000 women lost, I say women, childcare workers lost their jobs, and we know that the majority of those workers, of course, are women. And so what does it mean for them? We know that those workers who are serving as essential healthcare workers and working in grocery stores or in fast food restaurants to help feed all of us, that they're really struggling. And one of their struggles, of course, is lack of childcare. What do I do with my children? How do I homeschool them? And there's some real, I think, inequities here that we'll have an opportunity to address, all of us amazing women together, and also the women who we are here to talk about and lift up as well. And Mom Congress is doing some work in this space. We can talk about that now or in a bit.
Yeah, tell us
later,
a little bit about what work you're doing with Mom Congress, please.
So let me tell you first a little bit about Mom Congress, is that primarily we're bringing together amazing organizations that are doing this work, and we get to lift up to the members of Mom Congress and those who follow on social media calls to action, and what do we think the pathways forward are here. And on childcare in particular, there's a few opportunities, and there's a childcare bailout package that's been introduced by Congress. You can find more information about that on Mom Congress. We're of course supporting all of that. But there's also some opportunities to look at what do we do to serve moms right now. There has been a piece that was written by a journalist named Catherine Goldstein, who some of you may remember from Huffington Post. You could Google her name in Huffington Post, and this piece will come up about is now the time to think about caregiving protocol called the Care Corps, and should we be thinking about how to help moms even prior to this need to reset because of the COVID crisis? And Care Corps is her idea. We'll be talking about this idea and one more, and probably a few others at an upcoming congressional briefing that all of you who are watching and listening to the recording are welcome to join us for on October 14th. But there are definitely some policy opportunities. Another great idea that was crowdsourced on social media was, what if we got to use our healthcare, or I'm sorry, our FSA, child care reimbursement dollars to pay a family member, like a mother who maybe lost her job, to pay her to provide child care, since there's no child care centers that are open right now. So there are some creative policy solutions that we can be thinking about too. And I just know that women like all of you and those who are watching today are going to be able to help us move the needle around some of these policy issues. And now is a really exciting time for all of us to get to actually help inform policy. There's some good opportunities. There's an organization called Mother Honestly, who I know many of you know, who's been surveying the mothers in their community. Those kinds of ideas through crowdsourcing are helping to be shared. We're going to be sharing some of those ideas during the congressional briefing as well. So get engaged. And I think several people have said now's the time to get engaged, now more than ever, around policy, politics, yes or no, but policy for sure. We need your ideas, and it matters now more than ever in our history.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when it comes to childcare, the people are privileged when they have a second hand, helping them around the house or helping them watch their children. But so many women don't have this. So many women don't have the resources. They need to go to work themselves. So obviously there's a lot of inequity. There's a lot of sadness and a lot of hurt and a lot of just craziness going on right now. And, you know, we have a great lineup, everyone on here. I'd love to hear, like, what do you think are some things we individuals can do to help? I know that obviously 2020 Mom and Mom Congress is on the front line of this, but any ideas, maybe Temi or Hitha, that you can also bring up that we can help people that are less unfortunate and maybe need some childcare?
Something, I mean, honestly, it's like any what thing you can do to help does help. So whether that's a Donors Choose classroom, donating to one of those, or donating any unused laptops or tech that might be sitting around your house to a lower income school district or whatnot. I think if you think about like the enormity of the problem, it can get incredibly overwhelming. But if you focus on one small thing like to do, it can help. And there was even like putting together small like sanitation kits for people who are living in shelters, and like for women with sanitary products or menstrual hygiene products can help. And I'll find the link and put it in the chat. There's this woman in LA who, you know, she's a comedian who started assembling a ton of these kits and distributing them in her free time. I mean, it's frankly inspired me to start doing some of the same. And 5-year-olds can definitely assemble like a bag and get your kids involved. I think it's also important for those who are incredibly fortunate that we age appropriately tell our children, hey, life is not fair. So what can we do to help? How can we be the helpers? And just do what you can.
Absolutely. On the other end, obviously being a mom right now, you have the second shift, especially all of us, we have our main jobs, and then after our main jobs, then we have to tend for our kids, maybe make dinner, maybe clean up after them, unless you have an amazing partner who will just swoop in and do everything for you. But I don't have that person right now. My husband really depends on me. And I think a lot of husbands do, right? And I complain, and I can keep complaining. And on the other end, there was a recent New York Times article about how people without kids are complaining about parents getting special accommodation. So as a manager, someone who's hearing the other end, I'm so curious to know what you all think about other people who don't have kids, who don't necessarily get it, and us kind of getting a few like perks. How do you feel about those people that are complaining about us?
For me, I think it comes down to just basic human kindness. You know, your situation is not the same as someone else's situation, but it doesn't make their situation any less valid or less urgent to them. And just because, I mean, it's the analogy that I think we've all seen quite a few times, just because your personal house didn't burn down doesn't mean someone else isn't living through the experience of their house currently being on fire. And that's obviously very appropriate for the Bay Area, but just in the wider context, just because someone else needs something that you don't need doesn't mean they shouldn't get what they need. That is where inequity comes from. And I think everyone just being more open-minded to, you know, everyone's dealing with COVID in such different ways, all the parameters that have changed in our lives, it's really different for everyone. And no one person's situation is necessarily better than someone else's, it's just different. So I just think just being accommodating of that right across the board, whether you have children and you're envious of people without children, or whether you don't have children, you feel parents are getting perks, it's not your situation. So just, you know, maybe don't worry so much about other people getting accommodations that you're not getting. You don't need them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know that. I wish I can do like a big clap for you on here. It's true. It's interesting because I feel like now with social media, everyone has a voice, and it may not necessarily be the voice we all want to hear or that we can relate to. But there's other ends and other points, and we just there's a lot of biting our tongues these days. When people don't understand, kind of like ignorance is bliss with some things, right? But it really goes to another asset where I would love to talk about, you know, fighting for racial inequality, or equality, I'm sorry. First and foremost is Black women and the level of care that they may or may not get when it comes to childbirth and help. And then just to keep the momentum going, just parenting and everything that's going on right now with racial inequality. I'd love to hear your perspectives, all of you, if we may, just in terms of like, what are we doing and what can we do together as a whole to fight what is going on right now and make sure our children are at the forefront. Because if you think about it, they're the ones that will actually make the change. So it's up to us as parents to really make sure we're taking the right steps. So maybe any tips, any suggestions, any thoughts, all are welcome. Do you want to start, Joy?
Yeah, I think I can start by sharing a little bit more about the inequalities that exist in birth statistics for Black women, and it's why SuperKin so wisely chose to support the Black Mamas Matter Alliance, which are Black women-led nonprofit organizations and healthcare workers that are closing gaps for Black women surrounding birth. So really critically important work. Do take a look at the website. I know we'll hear more from SuperKin about that in just a moment. But women in childbirth, Black women are more likely to die than white women, 3 to 4 times more likely to die than white women, regardless of income, education level, regardless of living in poverty. And there's a lot to unpack there, including something called epigenetics, and the first generation of Black women, when they move here, may not have negative outcomes, but next generations do. We in the U.S. have not been tracking maternal mortality rates, which is why women have been dying unnecessarily preventable deaths in the U.S. for so long. Until just recently, we've started tracking them. There's no perfect way to track them. It's a gap in our health delivery system. But women are certainly struggling. Black women more than white women, and not just struggling, that's the wrong word, but dying at much higher rates. And we know that systemic racism and bias are a big part of that. And I just will start with that there's a lot going on and such great work happening by Black-led women-run organizations that Black Mamas Matter Alliance is getting behind. And we're so grateful to be able to partner and lift them up too.
Thank you for that, Joy. I think that's definitely a really important part of it. I think as moms, one of the things that I've spoken about quite a lot over the past few months is really focusing on our sphere of influence. Because I think there's a thought that mums can be powerless in a situation like this because it just feels so big and so overwhelming. But I think when you focus on your sphere of influence, you're having the conversations at home with your children, you're having the conversations at home with your partner, you're potentially changing the mindset of the future generation, which are the children. And then you're potentially changing the mindset of your partner. There's so much influence just within your family if you have that conversation. I'll share a really quick example of what happens when you don't have the conversation. I've spoken about this quite widely. Pre-COVID, I used to go to the gym on a really regular basis, and I was in the gym one day. I went down to the changing room to grab my stuff. I'm one of those people, I'd go in the morning. As Hitha said, I love exercising in the morning, so it's easier to get it done. I'd get in, get out. So I literally ran down to grab my stuff and leave and carry on about my day. And this is how racism works. It's the casual interruption of someone else's bias into your life. I was going to get my stuff to go home and get changed and have a shower and everything. I walked down. I'm at the locker. There's a little girl standing next to her mom getting ready to go to swim class. And as I get to my locker, she's like, "Oh, mommy, is she staff? Is in like, do I work here?" And I stopped what I was doing and I looked to the mom to see what the mom was going to say. And the mom was like, "Oh, you know, do you think that because she's wearing a badge?" I wasn't wearing a badge. So I looked at the little girl. I was like, you know, if there was any confusion here, as we can both very clearly see, I'm not wearing a badge. Maybe it was my membership card on the table next to me, but I'm not wearing a badge. You can see I'm not wearing a badge. And I left it at that. There was another woman in the changing room and I see her all the time. So I took this to be like her trying to help as much as possible. She was like, "Well, you know, the thing I really like about this gym is it's a community. Everybody here is welcome." And I got my stuff and I left. So in a situation like that, the mum basically lied to her kid to avoid having a conversation. It's not really a great plan because the kid is just going to internalize biases and turn out to be someone like Amy Cooper, which is not the goal for most people. So I think you have to just take it on board as a parent to have that conversation with your child. And that is something absolutely everybody can do today. If you haven't had the conversation with your kid today, when you come off this webinar, have the conversation with your kid. If you don't know what language to use, get a book. You know, get a book on Epic, you know, get a digital book, get a digital book on your Kindle. Get a book. There's so many good books out there. You've got the social justice books, which are really good when you want to have the conversation, but then you also need to have books with Black protagonists or protagonists of color to normalize Black. So that way your children start to see Black people as completely normal. Because I think when you other foreign people, it makes it scary, it makes it foreign, it makes it intimidating. Whereas if you incorporate things from so many different elements, so many different cultures, books, cartoons, what you read, what you listen to, and also for yourself as a parent, read books from authors of different races, different nationalities. I always say it's the best way to travel without buying a ticket, because you get a deep dive in someone else's cultural experience, someone else's perspective on the world. A great book that came out really recently to read, Kylie Reid, Such a Fun Age. It's a brilliant book because it's about a Black nanny working with a wealthy East Coast family. And there's so many different points that as a mom, full stop, you can relate to. If you've ever interacted with a nanny in any capacity, you can fully relate to this particular experience. And I think the historical books can be quite hard to understand, quite hard to contextualize, but this being such a contemporary book of a woman that's, you know, running a company that's a non-profit, you know, all women are doing good things. I support female entrepreneurs. She's basically the living example of the road to hell being paved with good intentions, because to mean well isn't enough. You have to do well.
Absolutely.
And
if you can leave that book, sorry about that, can you share the name of the book for everybody?
Yes.
Thank you. Please, Hitha.
And that book was brilliant, like brilliant. And Luster is another debut author about, like, it's an incredible book, but what Temi said, it's auditing your entertainment, who you follow on social media, the things like what the shows you watch. It's not enough to only read about like the active anti-racist books or whatnot. You need to celebrate Black joy, Black love, and honestly of it for all cultures. So, I mean, I know for Ro, he's got a lot of books that have wide variety of characters. We live in an age where he can actually get books with Indian protagonists, which I never had. Like I had a poo growing up, and that's highly problematic as well. But we also have great books and shows and things that he watches that is one, female protagonists, because he loves princesses, and he says princesses are strong, brave leaders, and I'm like, yes they are. And you know, he loves there's a Motown show on Netflix, like Motown Magic, that he loves. It's such a cute show, and any family can enjoy it. So it's like, I think we have to check our own bias, and it's like, am I reading books by people who look like me? Am I watching shows that feature people that look like me? Or how diverse is my entertainment? And that is, to Temi's point, a really, really easy way to get started. And I also highly encourage romance novels by Black authors, Black women authors. Alyssa Cole, Jasmine Guillory, they're two of my favorites, and I've basically read every book they've written, and I'm a huge fan.
Great. So yes, I mean, like you said, Temi and Hitha, it all starts from home. Sometimes as moms, we feel like we can't do anything, or maybe we're not doing enough, but every little bit makes such a big difference and such an impact, because they're so small and so impressionable. And what we teach them, these innocent kids, is it all comes from home. And I think a lot of it stems from what you don't teach. So not doing anything at all is actually part of being a problem. So teaching is the best thing that we can do. So thank you for that. I'm really excited to read all these books that you guys both had mentioned, but I know we're almost out of time. So I'd love to talk a little bit more about Superkin and what these t-shirts, these lovely t-shirts say. I never really thought about it to add to resume, grew a human. That is a huge thing. Like, that's the biggest thing on our resumes. Men can't say this. And there's different ways to do it, right? But this is something that speaks to me on so many different levels. And I do want to talk about how, for everyone joining us today, just a little note, it would be so, maybe you can take it away, Miriam. Yes.
I'm unmuting.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I know you wanted to say something, like you're about to say something.
Yeah, well, I wanted to add one thing
Yes.
just around, I think as we think about empathy and like what moves us, something that really connected me to the Black maternal health crisis was a podcast called Natal Stories. And I wanted to recommend it for everyone, because they take individual women's stories throughout, and it's like incredibly well done. And you really understand sort of like the breadth and depth of both the problem and the experience. And so I really wanted to recommend that. And you can also support them. They are, and Black Mamas Matter is a partner of theirs as well. So we just really so deeply believe in that mission. And, you know, when Tara and I were like early days of the pandemic, frankly, just like figuring out like we had to do something. Like we're just like I'm like, you know, fixing snacks and like trying to pivot a business and like, you know, doing a million things all at once, and just looking around and realizing that we had it good. And so we're really excited about being able to do something to kind of put a stake in the ground. And I think, you know, my completely unabashed, unembarrassed ask is everybody on this Zoom, like tell every mom, you know, like mothers are amazing. The way that our communities, like we know what's right. I think there's something really powerful about that. And so let's use motherhood and the craziness of this year to create some good. And so that's really kind of why it's so exciting to bring everybody together today.
Yeah, and so what I was going to say is that this campaign is raising $10,000 through these t-shirts for the Black Mamas Matters Alliance. So far, how do we know how much we've raised so far? Have we hit our goal?
No, we have not. So we just got our first round of shirts for like the first order. So we're coming up to like $1,400 that we've raised. And every shirt comes with some instructions about how to share with the people that are in your network so that we can hopefully, it's like the Wayne's World. I hope I'm not dating myself with that reference, but like, and they tell two friends and they tell two friends. So we're just going to keep getting the word out until we hit our goal. So
absolutely. And then maybe we can also leave a link down here as well to go directly to the campaign as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And I don't know if this is possible, but maybe every link we have put so far, maybe we can email everyone who has signed up so they have everything in one page in case they don't want to go back. But the website is addtoresume.com where they can actually donate and get the t-shirt, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so to end it off, I would love to hear, 2020, how are we going to end on a good note? What are we excited about? What are we not excited about? It's just like, we're almost there. We're at the finish line. Like, what do you guys expect? Is it going to get a little bit easier? Is it going to get harder? Like, how can we all end it off in a little bit of like a soothing note? I'll go myself. So I will first say, initially when the pandemic started, we had to tell our nanny not, oh, I can't even speak anymore. I need more of this coffee. We had to tell our nanny to just, hold off for a little bit. We obviously paid her, but that was very important. And then I was going crazy. So we had her come back and we were very safe. She was very safe. We have her now, so things have gone a little bit easier. So for me, I really realized that it takes a village, and everyone says this is like the motto of being a parent, like it takes a village, it takes a village. It really does take a village, but what I learned is asking for help. So I learned that the more I ask for help, the more people can see that I'm reaching out, like my mom or my husband or my sister-in-law or my own sisters. When we ask for what we want, whether it be in our family or our careers, asking for money from investors, that's very important. People don't know what you want unless you ask for it. So for me, I'm going to end the year by asking for what I want to make it easier. Anyone else?
I'd say just to be really honest with yourself. You don't have to do everything, full stop. You definitely don't have to do everything at the same time. You just don't have to do some of the things ever. So I think just being really honest with yourself about how you want to spend your time. We have a lot more time technically, but we also have a lot more demands on our time. So I think for me, just being really honest, this whole process has actually helped me be much more honest with my time and how I want to choose to spend it. And so that's how I intend to wrap up the year, still standing, being very intentional about how I choose to spend my time. There's a lot going on. A lot of it is beyond our control, but there's so much you can control within your household. Just focus on what you can control, and the sun might drop out the sky again, but you'll be okay.
What is one thing that you're like, no more, I'm not doing this anymore?
Say yes to things I can't be bothered to do.
Like what? Give us one thing. We want to learn from you. I want to learn from you.
I think we all get invited to do stuff that we don't necessarily want to do, but we do because you feel you should, or you don't want to disappoint someone, or, there's so many reasons why you feel that you should do the thing that you don't really feel like doing. And sometimes you just don't feel like doing it, so just don't do it.
Stop being a yes woman. Be a no woman. Yeah, exactly.
Whether it's going to somewhere or whether it's like cooking dinner, if you can't be bothered, get takeout. Whatever it is.
Thank you. Hitha?
I am feeling a little bit more, I wouldn't say things have not gotten easier, but we've just gotten better at managing it. I want to give my husband like a really big shout out because he saw how slammed I have been with work and accelerated taking some time off work so he can handle like a lot of the kids and homeschooling and house management. And frankly, he now understands. He goes, I don't know how you got anything done. Like, how did you do things in the past 5 years? And that I am grateful for his help and his support and his awareness of just how much we as mothers juggle. To Temi's point, I mean, I have really embraced no, and I I'm very prioritized that time, whatever little time I have for myself. I took it for granted before because the days are just so much more full and busy. Being able to unapologetically claim an hour to myself in the middle of the day when Rocky is napping and Ro is in Zoom school with my husband and I don't have calls, to read a book for fun or to watch Housewives or to go for a walk is really fulfilling. And I used to feel so guilty about it, and I don't anymore. So I'm excited to take that through this other side of this pandemic. And I think also something that has helped me is my expectations for my company and like what I think my vision is I no longer have the ego that I think I had pre-pandemic of I have to raise this much money and I have to eventually sell it for this. I'm a lot more strategic about, hey, did I do right by my team, by my investors, for this product to get into the market? And I think my ego got a much needed resizing as a part of this to figure out what feels good and what's right, versus what is kind of the business press or what people think is defined success. So that's
one thing that really struck a chord with me, the guilt as a mom. I feel like something else I also took away from this is I need that 1 hour of the day to myself where I either work out or I just step away from everything. And that guilt is real. Then I ask myself, well, would a man feel the same guilt that we as moms feel? And the answer is no, they wouldn't even think about it. They watch their football, their Lakers, their monotone baseball, sports, and they don't even think twice. So then I'm like, I'm a better mom. I'm a better wife. I'm a better entrepreneur and boss when I'm kind of like free in the mind for an hour and I can deliver more. So I really want 2020 to end off where women feel less guilt as we all navigate this, and it does better for everyone. So that's just my little thing where like we need to do away with the guilt. Like it's not going to get anyone anywhere. And that also comes for like asking for what you want. And I'm going to bring this up again because I talk a lot about like women in leadership positions and women applying to jobs right now. We may have the same level of experience as men, but we may not apply because we feel guilty because we don't fit all that criteria. But that's just a different subject in itself. But what I'm just trying to say is like, we need to stop with the guilt for 2020, and that's how we will get far. And I'm going to end it off with Joy. Please give us some nuggets as we end this year.
Yeah, my last sort of parting word is that this is a year for reset. And sometimes it takes tragedy and hardship to reset. And this is a gift we're being given, right? And let's hope we all come out healthy and better on the other side. And we have an opportunity to make that possible. I think there's two things we need to think about when we think about resetting. And one is personal. And we're touching on some of that now, is like, what do you need to do personally? I've started journaling again, which I haven't done for years and years. And I'm using this little piece of paper here, nothing fancy, to start to process some of my thoughts now. Like, this is a real time for reset personally. One thing that I have not been great about are going to inspire me is taking care of myself, self-care, and allowing for that time. One little nugget for people who may be like me and feel like, it's just so hard to prioritize, 2 minutes a day of some sort of exercise shows what great benefit, the health benefit. And I'm like, I can do two minutes a day for myself. That's where I am right now, although I'm still journaling because I know there's more to it. We've got a few more months in 2020. And then the last thing is, again, that personal reset, but also policy reset. And I would say anyone who's watching this webinar right now, we are in a remarkable, very unique time for motherhood. And we knew we weren't getting the support that we needed from society in the United States. Now is the time for us to reset together as a community. And we just invite you to think about, what would you need? What would you design if you had an opportunity to design better motherhood for those that are coming after us? What would it look like? And we want to hear from you. So email me And Superkin and all of us here, if you've got ideas, but I particularly want to hear from you all. What would you do to redesign motherhood? Thank you so much, everyone.
Wow, that was incredible. Definitely going to help us get through Q3. A lot of nuggets here. And I know someone asked if we're going to have all this information shared. So maybe if there's a way we can send an email to everyone with all the links, that'd be really great. I'd love to take a screenshot of everyone on here if we can. Okay. Okay.
I snagged a few during the presentation.
Okay, awesome. Great. Well, thank you all so much. This was fantastic. And hopefully we can do more things like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you all
Thank you
for sharing
all.
your wise words, and thanks for being here, everybody.
It was super inspiring and very actionable. Thank you, and have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.